Hello, everyone. My name is David Ernst. I'm from Pace University's Office of Undergraduate Admissions. Thank you so much for joining us tonight for the Affording a Pace Education, Financial Literacy, and Financial Aid webinar. If for now your mics and cameras are off, but if you do have any questions, you can feel free to ask those in the chat. And we have myself, another one of my colleagues from the admissions office, as well as my colleagues from the financial aid office here to answer your questions during the presentation as well as after the presentation as well. So you can just type any of the questions that you might have in the chat and we will make sure that we get to those questions. Just so you know, this is going to be a recorded event. So anything that you miss or anything that you want to go back to, you will be able to access this resource through the PACE YouTube channel after the event. So I'm now going to hand it over to my colleagues from the financial aid office so they can talk to you about your financial aid package.
Well, thank you so much, David. Hello, everybody. My name's Regina Robinson, and I have here with me this evening a colleague who's also from the financial aid office. No relation, but his last name is Robinson. His first name is Daniel. He's going to be helping behind the scenes in addressing many of your questions. We also have a colleague from enrollment management, a lovely woman named Sarah Carton, who's from the admissions office. And thank you to Sarah for also being available. Well, tonight, what we'd like to do is spend some time helping you understand how you can access and see your financial aid package for the spring semester. Packages right now at this time of year can have different meanings. And with the holidays season that we're in right now, and with future holidays being celebrated at the end of the month and even through January, I know it's a time of year where we think about many things, but I'm so happy that we have the time to be here together. We've made it this far, and we're going to be with you and help you to make it through to the spring semester. And it's my pleasure to work with you this evening and also to work with you after our broadcast webinar tonight. If there's any follow-up, any other questions I can help you with, you can always reach out to me. So, since we are talking about packages and we're going to specifically look at screens tonight, so how you can access your financial aid package on your PACE portal. But one of the things I want to just let you know is that as you're doing this, you are going to develop a sense of financial literacy about your student financial aid. So what does financial literacy mean to you? Well, it's a very broad field. It can get into areas such as understanding your FICO score, talking about credit management, talking about the difference between a variable interest rate and a fixed interest rate, and getting into deeper issues such as what would happen if you wanted to apply for a home mortgage, and how would you even think about investing funds into the stock market or picking out an appropriate mutual fund. Those are all very heady topics that some of you may even study while you're here at PACE. But as an undergraduate college student, your main focus in being financially literate is going to understand what you need to do about your student financial aid and gaining the comfort level and the knowledge so that you can manage your funds in the financial aid operation. So, for example, on your financial aid awards that we're going to move forward and see on the screens, you're going to learn to manage your student loans. You will understand whether you have a government loan, whether you may have a parent loan built into your financial aid award, or whether you may even think about going into the private sector and taking out an alternative loan. Do you currently track what you spend? Are you an impulsive shopper? With the holidays in the midst of everything we're doing, many people are focused on doing this during the day because everyone wants to see, can they get the best bargain? But by learning how to track your expenses as a college student, you can also use those same skills and apply it to understanding your student financial aid. And when you do receive money, if someone in the household, if your favorite aunt gives you $100. Do you make a decision to spend that $100 right away? Or do you think even about maybe taking some of it and saving it? You're going to learn as a college student again how you can save a little money so that you can create a fund for yourself so that you can decrease your over-reliance on student loans. Also, I will help you learn how you can supplement your financial aid package so that we can look at outside scholarships. So these are some of the things that you're going to get a better understanding to be a financially literate student, but we do want the emphasis tonight to be on how you can use these skills moving forward in understanding your financial aid. So one of the elements that you're going to see as we move forward in the screens for your financial aid package is that there's a term called cost of attendance. The cost of attendance is a basic presentation of your direct cost and your indirect cost to attend Pace University. If you just look at this screen and you see left to right, under direct costs, you see tuition, standard fees, room, board, and a total. If you go to the middle column, you see it listed as commuter student, and on the far right, it's resident student. This is pictured intentionally for a full academic year so that you will understand, although you're coming for the spring, you're going to be back with us following in September. So when you think and you plan for your educational cost, you will be thinking perhaps one semester at a time, but you also know that 2 semesters make 1 academic year. So your tuition cost, whether you're a commuter, that is coming back and forth to your classes, or whether you're a resident where you're going to be living on campus, you are going to see that the tuition costs are going to be the same. The fees are going to be roughly the same. Where you'll see a difference on the far right, where your cost is going to be higher, is if you're going to live on campus in one of the residence halls. Your board represents what you would select perhaps as your meal plan. And if you're a resident student, you're going to see that also is going to be higher than if you're going to be a commuter student. So your direct costs are those costs that are going to be billed directly to you. That's what you would find on your invoice from the Office of Student Accounts. The indirect costs are those costs that would be ancillary, but they're not billed to you. For example, they're not billed on your student account. They could include your textbooks, your supplies, transportation, and personal expenses. But we do want you to be aware of those ancillary costs because we are allowed to create your financial aid package with a projection of what those costs are. So let's see how you can try to access some of this information. So after you have filed your free application for federal student aid, the results of that information come to the financial aid office. And the financial aid office creates your cost of attendance, and then it looks at what programs or what funds you can be eligible for. They can be in the form of institutional aid, which is money from the school. It can be in the form of federal money. It could be state money. And this information will come on your financial aid award letter, and you will be able to see your awards right through your PACE portal. So here you see in the highlighted students directly under home, you will see obviously that this is the student page. And under navigation, the second item highlighted again says financial aid. All you have to do is you would enter that section, and then you could therefore get into the deeper part of your financial aid awards. The next item that should pop up should be financial aid system. That's highlighted so you can see it at the top. The rest of the information is important, but for now we're going to focus on how you can see your financial aid information. So by advancing forward, we see 2 critical areas that are highlighted for you. that'll be very helpful for you to understand where you can access your cost of attendance and where you can access your financial aid awards and actually see your awards displayed so that you can determine what awards you want to accept. Now, just I'll point out under financial aid status, the cost of attendance, which is toward the middle of that line. You will see that for yourself as we move forward. But just bear in mind what you're going to see is going to be representative tonight, the example of the spring semester, because you are coming for the spring. If you were coming, if we were doing this at another time, you most probably would be looking at the fall and the spring together. So in using your MyPACE portal, where you access your student financial aid awards, you want to be sure that you are looking at the 2020-21 award year. So you're in the spring of 21, and this is what you would click on. The drop-down menu, it may have other years listed. Just make sure you reach where it says 2021 and then click on Submit. Now this page is so critical because it has a whole host of information that's going to make the process so much easier for you. Your financial aid status for the award year 2020-21. Your financial aid awards are based upon the information that you supplied on the free application for federal student aid. Once that information is relayed to the financial aid office at Pace University, the financial aid team then has to put together that financial aid package for you. And the beginning part of it is based upon the information that you have completed directly on the FAFSA form. On this particular example, when the student filled out that FAFSA form, indicated, I'm going to be a resident, I'm going to live on campus, and I'm going to go to school full time. So that's what the financial aid office does. It's going to put together your award package based upon that critical information. If after this point in time, after you see your awards, should at any point you have a change of heart and you decide, you know what, I'm going to be a commuter, or perhaps if this was reversed, if this said commuter can be changed, you could either go directly into your FAFSA form and make that change, or you could reach out to us in the financial aid office and we can walk you through that process. And that's easily done. But it's important that should you make a change, you have to communicate it, because mind reading is becoming a lost art. So in order for us to help you, you have to let us know what your intention is so that we can put together the best financial aid package for you. And you do change to commuter, your financial aid package could look different. On the same reverse, if this said commuter and you were going to change to be a resident, your financial aid package could also be a little different. In addition to the resident undergraduate full-time, where it says here, you'll see other areas listed underneath. The first one says you have unsatisfied student requirements for this aid year. That means not that we're not satisfied with you, not at all. What that means is that there are some other pieces of information that you are going to have to finalize in the financial aid process so we can stitch up your financial aid package and make everything in good form for you so that everything is final when you start your classes. On this particular student example, like I said before, when we showed the bigger grid that showed the whole year, this particular student, because it's for the spring semester, is going to show that cost of attendance just for the spring semester. And it's roughly half of what you saw for the annual cost. On this particular student, the example again shows that the awarded financial aid for this student, it gives the total right there, $19,675. So along this process, anything that is highlighted, you could click on, and therefore you could get into further detail. So let's see what else that we can find out. Here's the lovely unsatisfied requirements. And again, this doesn't mean that we're not satisfied with you. I prefer calling it student requirements, but what you could see is highlighted in blue. There are going to be a few things that you have to examine, you have to look at, and you have to complete. So the first one says 2021 standard verification for dependent students. For this particular example for this student was selected for verification. If you have already filed your FAFSA form and you were selected for verification, you would know that before looking at this, because the U.S. Department of Education sends you your student aid report, and they will let you know if you are selected for verification. If you are selected, that just means that there's some other information that you have to provide to the financial aid office so that we can clarify the information that's on the FAFSA form. It doesn't mean that you did anything wrong. It just sometimes means there's something that doesn't add up, or maybe there's something that looks a little discrepant. You'll also see that there are award agreement forms, and those are forms that have to be reviewed by yourself, and then you have to sign them, and then you have to submit them. And then you see under the award agreement form that says Resident Scholar Tuition Award, you see another item that says award terms and conditions. This one is so important that it's going to get its own slide. But that is very critical because we have to receive that document back from you where you're signing the document so that we know that you have received the financial aid awards and that you understand the conditions that are associated with them. And I'll explain that a little further to you on the following slide. So if you have anything at all listed under these student requirements, it is critical that you look at each item. If you only look at two, that means that your file is still incomplete. You can look at two and you can come back the next day and do two more, but it's important that you read through and take care of each one of them. And you'll notice on the bottom, I'm so sorry the print is so small, you may not be able to see it. But since we've advanced so well in this pandemic, many of these forms, if not all of them, you can either complete your business directly online, and you can click on the link and it'll either give you a new area that you can answer the question, or it'll give another form that'll pop up for you that you can complete and then you can submit. So now that you looked at the requirements, it's also important that you look at your financial aid awards. What you'll see highlighted in the second area is where it says award for aid year. You have to review those awards and accept the awards. So you have the awards that you have to look at, obviously, and accept them. And then you'll have those requirements that you'll have to take care of as well. So let's see what the awards tell us. Well, it gets its own page as well. So here we go. It's telling you, confirming that this is for the year 2021. And it's also telling you again that the terms and conditions explain what's applicable for these awards, and that you're also going to have to accept the terms and conditions. So for either one of these tabs, you can again click on them, and that will bring you further into the specific area. But it's critical, and it's why it's repeating itself, is that you must accept your awards, because that way we know that you want to receive those funds. So here is an example of what you will see to review your financial aid awards. If you just look down to the middle of this page where it says need calculation, and you just follow over to where it says cost of attendance, you'll see that the figure there matches exactly what we saw on one of the previous slides. This is for one semester, full-time undergraduate. For this student, $33,776. If you follow your eye all the way over to the right side, you will see what composes that figure. You will see that the biggest element is tuition. And then you'll see that another big element happens to be the room. And then those indirect expenses, books and supplies, transportation, personal expenses. Those three items are not going to wind up on your student bill, but we are allowed in the financial aid office to take the average cost of what a student spends here in a semester and make that part of your cost of attendance so it can maximize your eligibility for what financial aid awards you may receive. So in this particular student case, this example, toward the bottom of this screen, you will see what this student is eligible for the spring semester. The student is receiving a President's Scholarship. That's an award that comes directly from the admissions office. It's a merit award based upon what you're bringing to Pace University from your academic career before being here at Pace. Another scholarship award says Resident Scholar Tuition Award. This is to benefit and assist the student who's going to be living on campus in the residence hall. There's also another element where it says Legacy Scholarship. That's item number 3. That is another scholarship that some students might be eligible for. And each one of these items on the award screen as we move forward obviously are going to be awards that the student, if the student wants to receive them, has to accept them. The student is also offered a PACE grant, and a PACE grant would be money from the university. It's not money from the federal government, but it is an award that is based upon financial need. And then the student is also offered federal work study, and this is a federal program where the student could work perhaps for the university on campus, doing an administrative job or doing some other type of work that's important for the university, and the student would get paid, and then the student may use those funds to help maybe save some of them, as we talked about before, or help with his or her own personal expenses. You have to work to earn the money. It's not automatic, and it does not go toward your tuition. The funds that would be earned, in this case, the student could earn up to a maximum of $1,250. Those funds would be earned by the student, and then the student can use those funds to help achieve the cost of attendance or could help save money for future semesters. Now, the terms and conditions that we spoke about before, and again, this is really tiny print. When you view it yourself, I'm sure it will look bigger. That is directly to the left on this screen as it was on the prior for terms and conditions. It has its own page. Now, everything in writing here is important, but I also want to highlight the bottom lower left circled in red and highlighted in yellow. That says accept. It is critical that after you read this, that you do click on accept, because if you don't click on accept, that's going to hold up your financial aid becoming finalized for the semester. Now, up toward the top, which is in that teeny weeny print, under eligibility, these items are very, very important. As we spoke about before, we showed on one of the earlier screens that the financial aid package for the student was put together based upon the student telling us, I'm going to be living in the residence halls, and I'm also going to be full-time. And we know that the student is going to be an undergraduate. If for any reason, and for the spring semester, if for any reason any of those criteria change, then that student financial aid package can be put on hold, because the elements that were used to determine the financial aid package no longer exist. The student may be full-time, but the student, guess what, is not going to live on campus. So that's where it's critical that the student understand from the beginning, whatever you tell the financial aid office is what the financial aid office is going to use to put your financial aid package together. So you have opportunity here to do a gut check and say, as you're reading this, oh, gee, you know what? I want to stay a resident student, so I'm good. Yep, I'm going to be starting in the spring. This is super. And I understand if I drop or withdraw some of my classes, that could have an impact on my financial aid. Toward the bottom, you will see also there'll be a message there for the student, because the student is receiving a President's Scholarship. So there will be information particular to that scholarship. For any other student that might be receiving any other kind of merit award, any other kind of scholarship, you'll see that information there too. It is important that you read it and understand you have to be full-time, you have to maintain your grade point average, etc. And that that is particular to your scholarship. And that's important that everyone review it, read it, and accept. If for any reason you don't want a scholarship, then you wouldn't accept it. And here's another way to look at your financial aid awards. And again, it's important if you think of 3 highlights from tonight is, where do I find my financial aid awards? I can find them on my PACE portal by looking at different viewpoints of my awards, but I know I have to accept them. I also know there are probably going to be some other requirements that go with these scholarships, or go with the loans I'm offered, or go with the programs I'm offered. And I have to look at them, and I have to complete any additional documentation, and I have to submit it. And I have to accept the terms and conditions. Well, this is the fun part, where you get to accept the awards that are offered to you. Again, for this particular student example, here's the President's Scholarship. Everything is lined up. It tells you what it tells you what the amount is. And then there's a section on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th column, accept award. You just go into that drop-down menu, and you can indicate if you want to accept the full award, you can accept the full amount of all your awards. If for any reason that you wish to decline anything, you would indicate decline. And if there was, for any reason, you only wanted to accept part of the award, you would indicate that as well. And then below this grid, you will see, which you can't, but it's there is a submit button, and you can click on submit. And that way, this will be communicated right to the financial aid office. On the bottom half of what we just saw before, the accepting the awards, there's going to be another display, so you don't miss it again, because it's so popular, because we are satisfied with you. And that is these other requirements that go with your financial aid package. In order for any of the funds that you just accepted to wind up on your student account, you have to complete whatever is listed here. Standard verification, if you've been selected for verification, you do have to complete the verification worksheet. and you have to submit it in. And then on the worksheet, there'll be other instruction that may be there if you have to submit tax returns and such. But you have to submit that verification form. Again, you can click on it and it'll bring you into the form, and then you can submit it. The award agreements for any merit awards will be listed there as well. Same thing. And here, if the student has been offered an opportunity for a parent to participate in the parent loan, which on the example we had tonight does not show that. But if a student did have the parent loan listed, that's an award that the parent could look at. It's not a loan in the name of the student. But this would give an opportunity for a parent to borrow some money to help with the educational costs. And this can be completed online as well. So here is another portrayal of your student financial aid award letter. And this intentionally is done in an annual fall and spring semester, just so that you can get set for the year coming after. But just using as one example, if you were just to follow your finger over to the spring column, you would see, okay, if this was me and I was here in the fall, gee whiz, the spring amount is the same as the fall. The president's $13,000. Resident, $1,500. PACE grant, it's the same. Pell grant, basically the same. And the federal Supplemental Education Opportunity Grant is the same. When your awards are for the year, generally speaking, they are 50-50. Spring semester is a little unique. You've seen that in the example. But regardless of whether you're looking at fall or spring, it's helpful to know and identify what type of financial aid you are receiving. So here where you see the top part with the first red arrow, this section you can refer to as gift aid or scholarships and grants. This is money, whether it's coming from Pace University or whether it's coming from the federal government. Whether it's coming from the university, coming from the federal government, or coming from the state. This is money that you do not have to pay back. Or let me just rephrase, it's not a loan. Now, the President's Scholarship, as we said before, that's a merit award, or if you got a trustee grant or any other type of scholarship that comes from the admissions office at the point of your entry acceptance to the university. The PACE grant is a need-based award. By filing your FAFSA form and by that information going to the financial aid office, the financial aid office looks at your cost of attendance and looks at your overall eligibility. If you have financial need, there's a chance you might get that PACE grant. The federal Pell Grant, that comes from the government, that comes from the federal government. It doesn't come from PACE. In order to obviously receive that fund, you have to meet other criteria that we will get to in a minute. And there's also the Federal Supplemental Education Opportunity Grant, which is also referred to as SEOG. That is also based on financial need. So the SEOG grant is based on financial need. The federal Pell Grant is based upon financial need. Not every student will receive one of these awards. It's based upon the results of your filing that free application for federal student aid. When you file that application, you are assigned an index by the federal government. It's called an expected family contribution, but it is not what you're going to pay Pace University. It's a poorly worded phrase, but that's what the government has selected. But what the financial aid office has to do is use that index to build your financial aid package or your financial aid awards. And so that's why there will be a variation. Some students may be eligible for X, some students may be eligible for Y. And that's the reason behind it. So your gift aid is listed first. So this is all money that is not loan based. The second arrow, that you're eligible for other aid programs, such as loans or such as work programs. The federal work study program, which we talked about before, that would allow the student to earn funds up to the amount that they're awarded. The direct subsidized loan is a federally backed loan. The funds come from the government. As a first-year student, the maximum that you can receive in your first year is $30 from that loan. Normally, while you're in school, the government is subsidizing that on your behalf. You do not have to make any payments on that loan until 6 months after you graduate, or 6 months after that point, which you are no longer enrolled, at least as a half-time student. The interest rate on that loan is a good deal. It's about 2.75%. And again, it's offered to you. You don't have to accept it, but it's there if it's going to be beneficial to you. The unsubsidized student loan is also a federal loan. It is similar, but there is a basic difference. The government is not subsidizing the loan while you're in school. So there's interest that would have to be paid. The government's paying the interest on your behalf on the subsidized loan. On the unsubsidized loan, they will not. So you can make a decision. If you want this loan, you could make that decision to pay the interest on the loan while you're in school. As a financially literate student, you may say, well, let me find out, what is the monthly interest going to be? Is that something I can handle? Right now, because of other reasons, because of the pandemic, the interest has been put on hold in many areas when it comes to student loans, but I'm not going to get into that specifically. But if things were different and things operated in a normal method, if you will, the interest that you would be paying on the unsubsidized loan at this point would probably be no more than $20 a month. If that's something that you could handle, that's something that you could pay. And that would help in the long run. When you finish your degree and you go into full repayment, you will have less to pay back because you have taken care of the interest payment while you're in school. You can say to yourself, you know what? I don't want to do that. I think I'll just, that's okay. Then what will happen is that interest is going to accrue, and that unpaid interest is going to be tacked onto the principal at the end. So when you go into repayment, you are going to be paying more back. That's a personal student decision, and you can change your mind. Under there, you'll see the Direct Plus loan. That stands for Parent Loan for Undergraduate Student. Right now, the federal government allows this program to be listed on the financial aid award letter because it is a federal loan that can allow the parent to borrow for additional funds if it's necessary to meet any area of your cost of attendance. What you'll find listed on your financial aid award letter, if there is a dollar value there, is the maximum amount rather, that you could apply for. It does not mean you have to apply for the maximum amount, but we do put the maximum amount there so you know what is the maximum that you could apply for. The loan would be in the name of the parent, not in the name of the student. There is an application for this. Because it's listed on the award letter does not mean that that's all I have to do. Just like it is with most of your awards, there are steps you have to take, and that we've seen on the other screen called student requirements. With the parent loan, you will see that the parent loan application is embedded within the student requirements if there is an award, and you can therefore complete the application and submit it to the financial aid office. And then we can go ahead and certify the application. it goes to the federal government's processing center, the loan. The credit criteria for the loan, it's much more liberal than if you worked with your own financial institution to secure a personal loan. Again, you're not obligated. You are not obligated to secure this parent loan. That's optional for you if that's something you want to do. But if you see from this formatted financial aid award letter, just to recap, at the top, you see gift aids, scholarships, and grants. This is not loan money. This is money you're eligible for based upon the results of that FAFSA form. The next grid with the second red arrow, these are other funds that the student would be eligible for. And again, the student can say yes, the student can say no, but they are listed because they are, in most cases, they are federal funds that could be there for you. Some of them may be loans, and the other might be a work program, which is the federal work study. And on the bottom of this award letter sample, you'll see highlighted in the red brackets, excuse me, are two new terms that many learned tonight: direct expenses and indirect expenses. The direct expenses, this is what would be reflected on your student invoice if you were coming to PACE, let's say, for the full year. And we're not talking about how you're paying for it. This is just so that you know what it is. Being financially literate, you want to know what the total situation is. The indirect expenses over to your right side, this is the best estimate of what the other expenses related to your cost of your cost of being in college could be. And that is, for example, your supplies for schools, your personal expenses, and your living allowances. So your cost of attendance for this particular student or any other student would be the sum of the direct and the indirect. And I'll just clarify again that it's not your bill. Your cost of attendance is the criteria that the federal government allows the financial aid office to use to determine your eligibility for your financial aid programs. So, in order to receive any federal funds, whether it's the federal Supplemental Education Opportunity Grant, whether it's the Pell Grant, whether it's a government student loan, the Stafford or the Stafford Sub or the Stafford Unsubsidized loan, or whether it's the federal work study program funds. Obviously, you have to file a FAFSA form. You must be a U.S. citizen or an eligible non-citizen. I'll use the term green card, although the card is no longer green. There are other categories. You have to be in one of those categories in order to receive the federal funds. That's not a PACE criteria. That is a federal government criteria. Excuse me, you must have a valid social security number. And if you're a male, you must be registered with the Selective Service if you're between the ages of 18 and 25. Now, we've talked about filing the FAFSA. If for any reason anyone in our listening audience tonight, in our viewing audience tonight, has not filed the FAFSA, you certainly can do that. And I would encourage you to do so. And you can file at studentaid.gov as portrayed. And again, the EFC, the expected family contribution, that is not what you're going to pay. That is just that index that we have to use. Now, I know I want to leave time for questions, but I do want to re-emphasize, if you are selected for verification and you see that highlighted under your student requirements, just take a deep breath. It just means you have to submit some additional information. One of those is going to be that verification worksheet, and then there may be supplemental information with your tax returns if that's asked for. And it's important that you monitor the email address that you put on your FAFSA form, because that's how you're going to receive information also from FAFSA for any particular reason. And also, if that's the same email address you're using with the financial aid office, you want to be sure you're staying on top of all your communication. And follow up with any documentation. If there's anything you don't understand, if there's anything that looks like I have no clue what this means, that's our job. We're here to help you. And be timely and communicate. So just like if you were preparing for a holiday meal, and regardless of how many people were joining you, if you were going to wait till 10 minutes before folks were going to show up to put the meal together, it might be a little difficult to do. Whereas if you know in advance, it gives you a little more time to prepare and you can have a much more comfortable experience. So take that same skill set that you already have and apply it to your financial aid. Is that you know what? You know where you can access the information. You know I'm going to check my emails. I'm going to see what I have to submit. And if for any reason it doesn't make any sense to me or I need some help, reach out to us. That's what we want to do. We want to help you. And finally, there are additional funding sources. As you arrive at PACE and as you receive your first grade point average at the end of the semester, since you're starting in the spring, you will be able to apply for endowed scholarships. And that will be information that I'll be happy to work with David to make that available for you as well, is that that's going to be additional funding that can be added to your financial aid package if you're eligible, if you have a certain grade point average, which generally speaking is going to be about 3.0, and also that you have filed your FAFSA form as well. I will be happy to work with any of you for external scholarships. This would be funding that you would get not from PACE, but from other organizations. There are some good search engines that exist, and it'd be my pleasure to help everybody look for additional funding to help you achieve your cost of attendance. There's also the whole world of alternative loans. For various reasons, there are some families that just decide they don't want to deal with any government loans and such, and that's a personal decision. And so we're providing the link that's here where you can look at other financial institutions if you wish, and then you can see what their applications are like and what their interest rates are, and many of them also conduct their business online. Other tools to assist you. I will see you in University 101 classes if that's a class that you have to take, where we will dive into some of these areas more deeply, and especially in financial literacy, so that you can understand some of the nuances of what you have to do further in looking for other funding sources to help you. Our Office of Student Accounts, which is the office that handles student billing, not the financial aid office, but the Office of Student Accounts, which are wonderful people. They will communicate with you. They will help you with payment plans if that's something that's beneficial, where maybe you can spread your payments out over several months. And they make their information online, and they also have appointments, and we can also work with you to work with them if that's something that pops your way. If you have any family members at home, any younger brothers or sisters that may be coming afterwards and were thinking about higher education, I encourage you to think about looking at a New York State 529 plan. Every state has a comparable plan, and it's a vehicle where you can save money for future educational purposes and also get a tax benefit from it. And finally, we want you here at PACE. We have wonderful people. We have an outstanding career services department. They are dynamite, and they help so many students with their resumes, internships, interviews. And in fact, 95% of our students who have had a one-on-one interview with the career counselor, they were either employed or continuing their education within 6 months of receiving their degree. And average overall full-time salary starting was a little bit almost $57,000. So I encourage all of you tonight, I know this was a lot of information to synthesize and to digest, no pun intended, talking about holidays. But if there's anything at all that you need help with, please reach out because we want you back. So back tomorrow, I'll be looking at my email. So if David wants to give out my email, that's perfectly fine. And at this time, I'm going to take a deep breath, and I want to thank you all for being here tonight. And I'm going to turn it right now over to my colleague David, who may have a few words to share.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Regina, for that amazing presentation and going through everything. So just a few reminders from the admissions office before we start going into some of the questions. If you have not yet submitted your deposit, that's going to be really important in getting enrolled for spring 2021. So you can go into your applicant portal to submit that deposit right there. It is the $100 tuition deposit. And then if you are also planning to live on campus, it would be the $500 housing deposit as well. If you are switching from being a residential student to being a commuter student, make sure you're letting the admissions office know so that we know not to expect that $500 housing deposit and so that you can move through the process. As of Tuesday of this week, orientation registration is now available. So you can log on to our website, go to the orientation page and register there. You can also register through your applicant portal for orientation as well. Once you register for orientation, that will set into motion getting set up with your spring 2021 schedule. We're going to be sending out more information about with each school on each campus how that schedule is put together. But the important thing to know is there's nothing really you need to do to register for those classes. Your academic advisor will be taking care of that for you and working with you to make sure that you get that schedule. So it doesn't look like there are any additional financial aid questions here right now. As I mentioned at the beginning, this presentation was recorded. It will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, the Pace University YouTube channel. That should happen hopefully within the next few days. If you aren't seeing it, feel free to reach out to the admissions office and we would be happy to get you in touch with the video. But otherwise, I want to thank you all for joining us tonight. And if you do have any additional questions, you can always feel free to let us know. Have a great night.
Thank you so much, David. Thank you, everybody. And everybody, good luck and all best wishes for a safe and healthy and happy holiday season and new year.